Nou, dit is dus de huiskamer. En dan komen we hier bij de slaapkamer.
Oh ja.
Met...
Heineken. Let men be men.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. It's probably a better day than, well, the folks over at Bud Light are experiencing, as new reports share some pretty devastating news, as well as the distributors for Bud Light have now issued a statement that they believe the damage from working with Dylan, the destroyer of brands, is permanent, and so much more. The Bud Light saga, the $30 billion loss in market cap, everything surrounding it really showed regular people out there that they in fact did have the power. They do have the power to push back and say enough is enough. And well, it's been pretty quiet for the destroyer of brands' new job opportunities, and I wonder why that might be. Maybe it's because brands realize that, oopsie doopsie, we've been enjoying penalty-free marketing for the past 10 years because, well, large part, Twitter was controlled by a censorious regime. Now, when companies decide to get woke, it looks like all those boycott threads and trends aren't getting suppressed, and it's having a real impact. And it's probably time for the CEO over at Bud Light to look for a change of undergarments because, well, things are about to get very real. Check this out after a quick word from this video's sponsor. Huge shout out to this video's sponsor. That's right, Sheath. These boxers are designed to keep your balls off your legs. Sheath has 3 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate and cool and comfortable. And hey, since they've been a long-time sponsor, I've heard from many of you who have tried out Sheath and really love it. They were invented by a U.S. Army soldier who came up with the idea for Sheath during his second tour in Iraq, where it was hot as heck and his boys needed to breathe. And on top of all sorts of awesome designs for Sheath, they've added all sorts of winter items, hoodies, gator necks, and all sorts of base layers. Head on over to the link in the description and pin comment down below. Use my promo code to save and support the channel and keep everything nice, cool, and dry. And fellas and ladies, by the way, I know it's probably, like, for fellas it's a little more different thinking about changing undergarments, but you've got really nothing to lose. And you know, I've been working with these guys for years, and I hear from subscribers all the time that they love their product, and you should check them out. Bud Light's latest plunge is so bad, experts now expect shocking August dethroning. The latest Bud Light tumble could be the beginning of the end. Sales of the once popular brew fell nearly 27% in the week following July 22nd, marking the 3rd straight week of declines after pressure seemed to be loosening earlier this month. Unfortunately, the light at the end of the tunnel turned out to be a freight train. According to industry expert Bump Williams, the latest plunge could be the final nail in the Bud Light coffin. Quote, It's going to happen a lot sooner than anyone had expected, Williams told the New York Post on Monday. We have it surpassing Bud Light mid-August. It would be Modelo Especial, the surging brew that experts have said for months, now could officially overtake Bud Light as the top-selling beer in the United States. Most of those predictions, however, pointed to December as the month Modelo could take the top spot. The latest data dump paints a much darker picture. The Anheuser-Busch brand saw sales drop 26.8% during the most recent week, which is worse than the previous week's 26.1%. Modelo, meanwhile, jumped over 13%, further closing the gap at the top spot of the nation. The Mexican brew has now reached 8.2% market share year to date, just barely shy of Bud Light's 8.4%. Williams said the latest jump is eye-opening. It's the closest any brand has come to suppressing Bud Light as the king of beers. As been the case for months now, Budweiser also saw another plunge to the tune of 10.3% decline in the same week. Yuengling sales soared another 21.3% in the most recent sales data, while Coors Light was up 21.2% and Miller up 17.7%. This on top of the Heineken CEO issuing some harsh truths, some harsh criticisms to Bud Light. Bud Light rival Heineken says businesses need to stand for their values in wake of AB InBev's trans row. Well, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but here's a story. Heineken's chief executive says the company has learned lessons from the social media controversy around a campaign for rival beer Bud Light, but still believes businesses should stand for their values. Particularly in the Western world, we do see a lot of polarization in society, and that's affecting players, all actors in society, also businesses and brands. Dolph Van den Brink told CNBC's Squawk Box Europe, you have to be thoughtful, you have to be balanced, and at the same time, you need to stand for your values and your principles. And we try to do that to the best of our abilities, he said. So far, I'm proud of how our brand teams across our operating companies are navigating this new world. Van den Brink was speaking to CNBC after Heineken on Monday cut its 2023 profit growth forecast. The brewer reported a 5.6% decline in beer sales and an 8.8% like-for-like fall in operating profit, coming in below a company-compiled consensus forecast. We always knew the first half of the year would be about the inflationary pressures on our input costs, particularly in Europe, which is an important region to us. We front-loaded the year with pricing. As such, we expected some volume softness, so they cranked up prices and people bought something else. I don't know a lot of people that drink Heineken. I don't obviously have anything against the beer, but it's interesting that it's now like a thing that other CEOs of other companies have to comment on, and I think it's pretty interesting. Now, I would say that the Heineken CEO sounds ripe for his own level of Bud Lighting, because he seems like he's almost saying that Bud Light was supposed to stand up for Dylan. I'm not exactly sure what he was insisting there. But this is the final nail here. Bud Light distributors no longer expect sales to recover from Dylan's disaster, which means massive layoffs are going to be coming. I mean, that's just the reality of it, unfortunately. And it's wild because it's 100% not the fault of these distributors. It's just not. Many Anheuser-Busch, so people know, Bud Light just makes the beer. They don't distribute it. Most big companies don't actually have their own distribution network. For example, ADT Home Security, that's installed by a secondary company that handles all of that. You have a product, sure, but most people don't have a distribution network to install it. If you get satellite TV, it's not Dish Network or DirecTV installing it, it's some local installer. That's similar to what happens with beer. They don't have their own distribution. Many Anheuser-Busch distributors say they are resigned to their painful Bud Light losses, and they have given up on luring back disaffected customers following the Dylan fiasco, the Post has learned. After 4 months of hiring freezes and layoffs, with some beer truck drivers getting heckled and harassed, even as Bud Light sales have dropped more than 25%, Anheuser-Busch wholesalers have accepted that they have lost a chunk of their customers for good and need to focus on a new crop of customers. Customers have made a choice, said an executive at Texas-based beer distributor who did not want to be identified. I'm not surprised. They have left Bud Light, and that's how it's going to be. I don't envision a big percentage of them coming back. And that's something that, I 100% agree with. There's just, these people aren't going to come back. People are loyal to their brands. It takes a lot for them to leave that brand. And that holds true now that they've switched to something else. Maybe it's Modelo, maybe it's whatever it is. Now they're going to be loyal to that brand. And it's going to take a Dylan-like scenario for them to switch, and it's probably not going to be back to Bud Light. Sales of Anheuser-Busch beers, including Budweiser, Michelob Ultra, and Busch Light, have been in decline since Bud Light's marketing tie-up with Dylan. What's more, those lost customers have likely found Bud Light's competitors, including Coors Light and Miller Lite, are a very similar product. Winning the beer wars come down to whoever's best at marketing, the executive said. There's an increasing feeling that the Bud Light decline rate could last for a while, and distributors are worried about losing those drinkers to similar brands. See, if you're a Bud Light distributor, that doesn't necessarily mean you also are a distributor for Miller Lite or Coors Light. So when you lose that Bud Light volume, there's no replacing it unless maybe you're a big distributor and maybe in a small town, you just do it all. That's possible. Pair of social media posts, of course, we already know. So executive editor, Beer Marketing Insights. One silver lining for the beleaguered Anheuser-Busch distributors is the rise of Modelo, the number 2 beer brand, which Anheuser-Busch owns outside of the United States. Rival Constellation Brands distributes Modelo in the United States, where it's been outselling Bud Light on a weekly basis since May. What's helping distributors is having Modelo in their portfolio. Beer executive said, but if you don't have Constellation, you're in a pickle. While Bud Light remains the number 1 beer in the United States, those days are likely numbered, with Modelo expected to overtake it by the end of August, experts say. Even before the Dillon disaster, beer suppliers have been fighting a broader crisis. Beer has long been the number 1 alcoholic drink in the world, but the beverage of choice for new drinkers. But the last year, spirits surpassed beer in the first time in the United States. Hard liquor accounted for 42.1. That's the lockdowns probably will do that. Now, I wonder if that includes all these new popular seltzer and vodka type drinks, because that is technically spirits, but I always view it as a beer, but it's probably that. Oh, yep, sure enough. The increasing popularity of ready-to-drink cocktails is fueling the trend away from beer. In response, breweries are partnering with spirit companies that are making canned cocktails. I mean, I love me some Cutwater. You get like 3 of those, you're feeling good, you're feeling right. And it's just easier than drinking 9 beers. Oh, look at that. Those include Cutwater spirits, which Anheuser-Busch, dang it. Oh, I got to find something that's not Cutwater, apparently. Dang it all. There's a million options. I'll find something. The craft distillery is now part of Anheuser-Busch's Beyond Beer. There's so many different options for coming-of-age drinkers these days. Well, I know they did this all to themselves. You see Miller Lite Brewer benefits from Bud Light's turmoil. We've seen, obviously, that. We've seen, Bud Light decline could last for a while. Customers not coming back, executives warn. Bud Light sales have declined nearly 30% in the last year. Well, it's not going to come back. Then you have, competitors like Coors hitting the marketing target. Would you drink the beer of Dillon or Rip Wheeler? Coors is out there with Rip Wheeler and this kind of stuff. So everyone's just really dunking on Bud Light right now, and it looks like it's going to stay that way, and I couldn't be more proud of those people that stood up and said, enough is enough. I'm not doing this. I can just switch brands. It's very easy. And if nothing else, this has shown the power of the normal-brained consumer. And I'm looking forward to more and more backlashes like this and more wins for the everyday consumer. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe down below. And we'll talk to you again real soon.